Today, we are joined by the owner and founder of altagency.com. His goal is to help unsatisfied agency owners provide for their families, enjoy life, and provide exceptional services for their clients. He's helped over 150 agency owners to do this. Mr. Greg Hickman, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Greg, my pleasure. My pleasure. I just can't wait to talk to you. I want to start. I want to go back in time. Go back a little bit to your first launch into entrepreneurship, right? So you were working in corporate world for a while, and in 2013, you decided to take the leap. I want to know what prompted you to make that leap into entrepreneurship.
Um, I was inspired by a lot of the people that I had been following, people like Pat Flynn and the guys over at Internet Business Mastery back in the day. And I don't know, I think I always ran into issues where my vision was different than the people that I was working
Mm.
for. And after that happened enough times, I felt like I should probably do something of my own. And so, yeah, in kind of 2012 is when I started doing a little bit on the side, learning, and really kind of launched the first real things in 2013 and went full time into working for myself in 2014.
So you didn't just jump out of the plane and put the parachute on the way down. You already had kind of had some infrastructure in place before you took that leap, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't. It's well, so it's interesting because when I did that, I forget exactly when I started it, but I started a podcast that was short lived called Leaving Corporate. And I interviewed people on how they made their transition out of corporate because I was curious
Sure.
myself. And out of about 80 interviews or so, only one person, like, quote unquote, took the leap, like, with just went for it, with no sort of bridge. Every single person had some sort of bridge. They had some side income. They had a couple clients that had like annual contracts. They took money out of 401k or savings and had like a year's worth of runway. So yeah, I definitely hedged my situation and built as much as I could on the side with the limited time that I had before kind of going all in.
Yeah, well, and that certainly resonates with me, and I think all the after hours entrepreneurs out there. If you've got bills, you got family, you can't just leave all of your income. You have to segue into it. So I'm kind of curious. Right now, you're running this alt agency, which correct me if I'm wrong, is really helping agency owners uh, to scale and to manage, but not to build their own prisons. I'm kind of curious. Was that your initial goal? Was that your initial business, or did it evolve into that over time?
It evolved into that for sure. So, I mean, when I first started, coming out of agency world, and then before I kind of went on my own, I was working client side for a big retail brand, and um, it was all of my experience, decades plus of experience around mobile marketing. So, like text message marketing, smartphone apps was my life,
Mm.
and many people in many circles were like, "Greg's the mobile guy." And so I went out and I started a bunch of different things in and around that space. I had a text message marketing platform that was like a SaaS play. We had just a strategy consulting, business. I did coaching in that space, but I always had trouble getting that business really over like 10K a month
Yeah.
consistently. And while doing so, I had acquired a skill in using a tool called Infusionsoft at the time, which is now Keep, marketing automation for small business. And I was using it for myself because other online entrepreneurs that I followed were using it. And then I realized other people were using it. And I said, well, what if I just helped those people use that tool better? I like it. A lot of them use it and seem to have trouble. And I took on a couple clients in that regard, and that turned into like a marketing automation, sales funnel building agency that then became alt agency. So definitely multiple progressions. I didn't just kind of leave corporate and say I'm going to start helping agency owners, because it didn't play out like that.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly hasn't in my experience, right? You kind of have to keep trying new things until you find what really sticks, and that can be a challenge. What you think your business is can end up being something else. But to me, that's one of the scariest parts about agency ownership, right? Is because you're trying to scale, but you always have this challenge of continuing the level of service and level of quality for your existing clients. How do you scale while doing that at the same time? Were you ever afraid that you were going to build your own prison that you could just never escape because you're always helping out your clients?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what happened. And so, I mean, for background, like I came from agency world, so um, worked for agencies that represented, part of Omnicom, some big brands, professional sports teams, big agencies, boutique, and so I definitely had lived the agency life before finishing on the client side,
Mm,
and once the kind of Infusionsoft automation thing kicked off, like took off for us, we grew to about I think 13 people at our peak, and we kind of hit this plateau in revenue where we weren't really profitable. We really just felt like glorified freelancers, and I was figuring it out as I went.
right.
I had never owned and operated an agency. I had always just been a cog in the wheel of one, and so looking back, there's probably things I could have done a whole lot better. But in my situation, I hit this point where it felt like the only way to make more money and grow was to get more clients. And then for X number of clients we added, I needed X number of people. And as I started doing the math of like how many people I needed and where I wanted to get to do all the things that, entrepreneurship would give me, it was just like, well, I'm back in the agency world,
Yeah.
like, but now I'm running the ship. And like, that just didn't seem appealing to me. And again, at the time, I had been following a bunch of online entrepreneurs that were creating courses and doing coaching. And I just saw a different way to essentially offer the exact same service that we had been offering as an agency, but more of in a consultative coaching environment. And that was early 2017 when we started making that pivot, because that's just not the business that I wanted to build. And I have peers of mine that coach agency owners that are over seven figures, and we were like about that seven, we had generated seven figures in our agency in like 14 months, so like not in a year, but like that's all I needed to know that I didn't want to keep going down
Yeah.
that path. And some want to do it. Some want to go after the big brands and have, $100,000 deals for the year and only have 10 clients. And if you're going to be an agency, that's actually probably the better route. But an agency where you have, thousands of clients paying 2K a month, like that seemed like a nightmare to me,
Yeah.
especially with the amount of work that it took for us to actually serve clients effectively. And so that's when I started looking for alternate paths. And that's when we sort of packaged up our own expertise that we had learned from doing the agency services and added on a revenue stream of coaching and training that complemented our done for you services. And we really used the done for you services as a bridge out of doing done for you while we launched and got more clients in the coaching side of things. And so again, just like I got side business when I had my job to as the bridge, I
Mm.
use my agency service, my done for you services as a bridge to get into this new way of delivery that was more scalable, more enjoyable, more profitable for me. And then now we teach other agencies how to do the same thing.
So I think this is really, really, really smart. Being dynamic, looking for different ways that you can bring in income. I think that's one of the problems a lot of people are having right now. And in 2020, is they've gotten so focused, so committed to one stream of income. But when you lose all your foot traffic, all of a sudden, due to pandemic, you're in big freaking trouble. So having these other
Yeah.
skill sets, these other possibilities to move, it seems like a good strategy. I want to talk a little bit more about the service that you offer and how you're helping agency owners
Mhm.
level up and take it to the next level while also keeping their sanity, which
Yeah.
is certainly I've got a few calls I need to make after this call, which are pushing that. But so allagency.com is where you can find Greg. But let's talk a little bit about this. Someone comes to you and say, Greg, I'm not making enough money. I'm spending all this time. I'm building my own prison. What's the first thing they can do to try to really start scaling this thing?
Yeah. So we really start in one of two areas, and sometimes one comes before the other. It really depends on the client. But first, we really simplify what it is they do,
Mm,
which often means eliminating certain things that they do. So with our clients, they often offer too many services to too many types of business owners, like they have too many different avatars.
yeah.
So we help them hone in on like a specific offering within their experience and have that targeted towards one particular type of person that allows them to charge a premium and solve a valuable problem for that person. And so kind of eliminate a good portion of, or at least for now, stop selling some of the other services that they historically had been selling. So that could be through elimination. That could just be through simplifying. So we really streamline what it is they actually are offering their clients. And then the second piece to that is um, starting to install systems and automation around where these people spend most of their time. And for our clients, agency owners, service providers, consultants, it's usually in the sales process and then in fulfillment. So we found that by kind of dialing in a repeatable, predictable sales process using some sales automation, that you can actually get back 5 to 10 hours a week, but you're going to be talking to more of the right prospects. So your close rates will go up. You'll talk to fewer people, but it'll be the right people. And so we'll optimize your time in sales, and then we're going to optimize your time in fulfillment by choreographing an onboarding process and like showing clients what to expect and how you do your work, so that you don't deal with the things that a lot of agency owners deal with, which is things like scope creep. So between simplifying and then systemizing those two areas, we really start to see a huge improvement in how they operate and run their day-to-day business.
So this is super, super smart and very easy. I mean, you've actually notated a few different traps here, Greg, that I think I fall into myself. It's being clear on your avatar and what you actually offer. Because right now I've got a client that I'm doing videography work for. I'm doing some podcast coaching, doing done for you podcasts. I'm doing a few different things. Um,
Yeah.
and to your initial point too, like you might not know exactly where your business is going, right? So you kind of need to test different things. But you also hit on another really interesting point, and that's automation, marketing and automation, sales automation. And for me, that's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because on one hand, one side
Mhm.
of this blade, you're getting a lot of work off of your plate, but the other side of the blade is you're losing that personal touch. And I don't know about you, but I hate, especially on LinkedIn, the automated.
Oh yeah.
How do we actually use automation without being robotic?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a good point. I mean, I think there's a difference between automated and automatic. I
Mm,
think what you experience and what you're talking to is like taking things that should be and have a human touch and removing that human. That's not how I see the benefit of automation. I think when you make your business or your sales process or your fulfillment process automatic, you're using automation to really make the human touch points that you have more impactful. And things like for example, when a client comes into one of our programs, without us having to do anything, there's a notification that goes to a fulfillment company and they get like a welcome kit.
mm,
I don't need to pay someone specifically to like take the client's information and then copy and paste it and then send it to the shipping company. Like that's not a good use of any human's time. But when I can have automation say, hey, Greg, this client's been working with you for 2 weeks. Here's where they're at in their business. Go check in. My team can go check in with personal touch, but I didn't have to be like, okay, looking at each and every client to say, has this been 2 weeks? So automation, we use it in many ways on the delivery side to tell us when to do something as a human. So it's more almost benefiting our own internal team. And then the touch points that we know can be automatic or automated to our client, which there are some, can also be a part of that process. So I think it's a combination of both. We can have an email that reminds me and my team every 2 weeks to check in, and then we get to go look and see where they're at. And then our check-in could be very personalized to where we see that they're at. But things like, hey, here's this week's recording of the previous training, like that doesn't need to be hand delivered, personalized, because it's more of something that they just need to know versus something that needs to be, high touch. So I think there's a combination of, as long as you're intentional, I find that the people that, I feel if you want to be transactional, you're going to end up being transactional. If you want to have high touch, there are just ways in which you use the tools to make that high touch more meaningful and impactful. But automation makes humans better. I don't think it replaces them. It just takes away some of the things that they probably shouldn't need to do
mm.
manually and allows that to be automated. And then it keeps them on top of where they need to be, high touch.
Yeah, so I'm 100% on board with that. It's leveraging the technology that's out there to supplement you, not to replace you, or in some places replace, right?
Yeah, and some things
Just
for
for
sure. Yeah. Again,
Zapier is a program I'm starting to really enjoy, and I'm starting to
great.
automate some things with Zapier. Are there any other softwares or programs that you really like for agency owners right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple that kind of fill this category, but some sort of call it marketing automation tool. We love Active Campaign. There's Keep, which was in Infusionsoft. There's tools like HubSpot.
Yep.
I find that those sorts of automation slash CRM tools really become the hub or the brains of a lot of these things. And um, things like Zapier will kind of accent and help
Right.
integrate certain things with that, with that brain. And yeah, you can do a lot with both of those tools, both in sales and in delivery.
That's one of the problems with all the softwares. There's so many softwares. There's always new ones coming out, and then it's like, what do I use? What don't I use? What's overlapping? So I think that's part of the value you can get from working with someone like Greg from altagency.com is he can kind of walk you through what the newest trends are and what
Totally.
is going to really work well together. Of course, you're on podcasting and YouTube as well, so you're doing a little bit of it all. So let's say that we're at the point where we've got some softwares in place and we're trying to identify what do we need to cut out, because listen, this is the biggest problem that all of us business owners and entrepreneurs have is we're so busy working in our business we can't actually
Yep.
look from the outside and look on our business. What's a tactic? What's something I can do to actually take a step back and say, hey, what do I need to cut out of my life? What is actually a waste of my time? What's not useful?
Yeah. So the most powerful one is also really annoying to execute, but it's still the most valuable is a time audit. So for 7 to 10 days, set an alarm for every 15 minutes and write down what you were doing for the last 15 minutes. You will be shocked at how much time you are wasting on tons of things that you shouldn't be doing, and or could at least hand off to somebody else. So you'll probably delete a bunch of things and you'll probably identify things that you can hand off or identify a type of person that you will need to hire to hand those things off to. It's simple to do. So it's simple in nature, but it's not easy because tracking your behavior for every 15 minutes, it becomes a chore, and you kind of need at least 1 to 2 weeks of it to really start to notice some trends. But I haven't had anyone do it where they come out like not shocked. Like they're always just like, "Oh my god, I have been wasting so much time." And it just really helps you kind of hone in on where to start.
Yeah, so this is super practical. I want to dive in a little bit deeper into this idea of the time audit. It's not a concept I've heard before, so I'm glad they have you on
Yeah,
the show to share this. So,
great.
you let's say we've done this. We've executed for 2 weeks straight. We're tired of it. We're sick of the time audit. What do we do with all this data that we've gotten from the past couple weeks?
I mean, it depends on what the data tells you, but
Hmm.
oftentimes, one thing that comes up in our clients a lot is just the level of context switching. So they'll have a sales call and then they'll go into fulfillment, followed by another sales call. And, by reorganizing how you structure your time blocking, theme days, you can actually become more efficient because the time it takes from going from sales mode into marketing mode or fulfillment mode, there's sometimes a 15 to 30 minute transition like for your own brain to like really kind of get back in the groove. And so if you're doing that 3 or 4 times a day, you're wasting hours. And
Yeah.
so just by seeing that you're doing that might have you restructure your days a little bit to maximize your output for how much time you do have. So that's one thing that I see happen a lot. um, you might realize that you spend a lot of time um, grocery shopping or something, and now you can go outsource that, or you can have, you use one of the meal delivery services, where, you grocery shop on the app, but you don't have to go to the store. They just bring it to your house. And because maybe you have to commute 15, 20 minutes each way. And so now that's, 40 minutes to an hour just commuting to go get food, which then has to be prepped and all this. And so it kind of depends on the person. Um, where you might be spending a lot of your time. You might find that you're doing a lot of time in like your help desk tickets. That might identify one. Maybe you were doing that all in Gmail and it's a mess. And just by getting an actual help desk tool, you save minutes to hours a day. Or you're like, wow, I spend 80% of my time in the help desk. Maybe I hire a customer support role.
Yeah.
So it really, the data could point you to a lot of different scenarios. But then you also have to kind of look within your means of, well, what is like one action that I can take to now remedy what I just found? And it's all starting small, but the data will tell you where you need to start.
Yeah. I would assume that probably by the end of day one, you already have an idea of 5 things that you can probably switch out, like
Usually,
stop
yeah.
watching
If
TikTok in between calls, right?
Yeah, you're like, "Oh, wow, I'm watching, 30 minutes a day of YouTube,
Yeah.
nothing." Like, okay, well, maybe you should schedule learning in your week instead of kind of sporadically throwing it in, because again, that's context switching. You want to consume and learn and educate yourself, but why don't you schedule 90 minutes a week to start if that's where you're at, instead of trying to squeeze it in, because again, you're now adding that context switch where you become a little bit inefficient.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I definitely listen to, podcasts and YouTube during the course of the day, but there's certain times of day where I do, certain times I don't, because
Totally.
it's just too distracting. And it's too distracting. It's too distracting. You gotta pick the right times. Yeah, this is really great. The altagency.com. Greg is going to give you more and more tips. We're just touching the tip of the iceberg here. I want to talk a little bit more about these clients that you maybe can't serve, right? So let's say, kind of going back a little bit, you've gotten clear on what your main value proposition is, right? You kind of zigged, you've zagged, you figure out who you want to work. What do you do with the people that come to you and say, "Hey, Greg, I want to work with you," but you don't actually have the infrastructure, the tools, or the time resources to serve them? What do you do with those clients?
Or we just don't want to.
Or you don't want to? Sure, there's
Yeah, I mean, if we can, we point them to somebody else. We're not trying to. I mean, and for us, it's, can we at least get them knowing what they need to be doing and where, and maybe whom can help. We're not experts at everything. We don't try to be. So if someone comes to us and they're like, we don't really work great with people that are just getting started.
Mhm.
Most of our clients come to us and they've been in the game for at least a couple of years, or have a handful of clients. They've established some sort of clientele that, like, they're clear on who they're helping to some degree and what they're good at.
Well, I want to talk
So if
about the
someone
referrals just a little bit. I want to go a little bit deeper into that,
Yeah.
right? So, do you try to develop reciprocal relationships with other local businesses? Do you maybe say, "Hey, we'll send you business your way. Shoot me a commission check." What do you recommend for that?
Yeah, I don't think I have the best answer for this. I just point them to who I think
Okay,
they need. If I find myself pointing to someone all the time, I'd probably go have a conversation and see if there's any sort of referral kickback. I'm usually pointing people elsewhere more for my own sanity than I am to make money. Um, so yeah, I mean, if, like, there's a few people that I've invested in that, I'm an affiliate for, or I'm a referral partner for, very few. But if they go buy someone's course and I get $37 because they bought a course, cool. Like,
yeah.
but they got the help that they needed. We have some companies that we've used that when we refer them, they'll give us a kickback of 500 or $1,500 as like a finder's fee. Um, you know, I don't do it for that. I do it because that's the person that they need to go to get what they need. And we have that even with our clients. So even when it's not just I can't help them, it's, hey, you are a client of ours and you're now needing something in addition to what we're giving you that we don't have. Well, here, go talk to this person. It's not always a deflection of, I don't want to work with you. It might just be, hey, you actually need that thing
Yeah.
and they have it. So go get it from them. And here's I'll introduce you. And so we have some of those, again, referral relationships. But yeah, I've never really focused too much on trying to make tons of money from it versus just, me making sure that I'm not taking on stuff that I shouldn't be.
Well, I think that level of authenticity is one of those things where it maybe doesn't pay off day one, but 5 years down the road, when that person that you referred knows, "Hey, Greg and alt agency actually did me right." Well, now I can go back to them because now I do have a need, or maybe I have a friend. I think
Yeah.
authenticity goes a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also situations like where we recommend a lot of software to our clients that, like, I don't like, I could do it for them, but then I become support. But I don't want to be support for Active Campaign when they have their own support team. So, I mean, we have like affiliate relationships. So, I mean, all in all, we make, I don't know, probably somewhere between 3 and 5 grand, maybe 8 grand a month, just from like all the affiliate software plus kickbacks here and there. Um, that end up happening. But like again, if I want them to use the tool and I know it'll help them out and they just buy through my link, I'll get a little bit of that every month. And it adds up over time for sure.
Yeah.
It's nothing to write home about. But I mean, hey, if it covers my office rent or anything like that, that makes it worthwhile.
Well, it makes you more stable too, right? You have multiple
Absolutely.
streams
Yeah.
of income. I think that's and I honestly, affiliate links, I think is something that every entrepreneur, business owner should be at least thinking about. Even if it's
Totally.
something as simple as, hey, this is the phone line that we use. This is the phone we use. Go to Amazon. So I think it's something to be at least thinking about.
For sure.
So we've been talking a lot about time management, scaling, that sort of thing. I want to talk a little bit about how you're allocating your time when it comes to podcasting, video podcasting, YouTube. You're doing all these different sorts of marketing techniques. Why is it important to you that you're a guest on other podcasts? Why is it important that you have a podcast now? Why is it worth your time?
Yeah, I mean, it's marketing, awareness. I mean, meeting cool people. The doors that get open from having a podcast. I'm sure you can attest to this.
Yeah,
You know, they always show up somewhere, sometime. But yeah, meeting cool people. As a business owner, you know, for me, it everyone I think in today's world, especially in the industry that we're in, you need to be publishing content
yeah.
to create awareness in addition to things like paid advertising. I think it's a great supplement. And um, how one publishes is going to be different from somebody else. Like, I'm not a great writer, so like I'm never going to be the guy that's writing tons of blog posts. Someone else might be a great writer and they write the best daily email newsletters and the best blog posts. Like, for me, creating content comes more naturally talking and through video. I love drawing on my iPad, so if anyone watches my YouTube channel, you'll see me drawing on my iPad a bunch. So that's, for me, my method of communication, my preferred communication style. And it just so happens that those also lend themselves to things like, well, I can do a video and I can extract the audio and I have an audio only thing. That's how I do it right now for my podcast. That is going to change in the future. They're going to be kind of two separate entities, so to speak, like different types of content versus just let's take the audio out. I know a lot of people that do that, but um, top of mind awareness, you know, uh, omnipresence, those are all reasons. From a sales perspective, though, and while it sounds probably obvious to people listening, like it wasn't obvious to me when I started it, but um, we sell everything over the phone. Where we consult people, so we want to make sure that we can actually help. So we have a phone sales team, and I mean, easily 90+% of the people that buy from us will reference my YouTube channel or the
Mm,
podcast. And so I look at it as, if my content that I'm creating and putting out into the world is always aimed at that person that is somewhere within that 90-day buying window. So like my topics are really geared towards the someone who's going to be buying soon versus the, hey, did you know you have this problem sort of content. Uh, it really helps to start create a frame for our sales conversation. So in many ways, it's actually doing some of the selling, and it makes a lot of our sales conversations a whole lot easier, more about fit versus force. And I've found tons of value in that for sure, and was not expecting it to be that way, but it has ended up being a byproduct of that, which I think is the same for most people.
yeah. No, I think it's a good perspective because I don't really think of podcasting and YouTube as direct selling, but it generates warm leads for your business in a lot
Yeah,
of
it's
profound
it's
ways.
much it's very much a
Yeah.
nurturing vehicle.
Super powerful. Cool. Before I let you go here, Greg, I want to hit
Yeah,
on a couple rapid fire questions here. We're running a
do it.
little long. Of course, we're talking with Greg Hickman from altagency.com. Greg, what is a must have business item for less than 50 bucks?
Business item for less than 50
That's
bucks?
it. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, just because I've been rereading it over and over. I don't know if I forget if you also have a book question, but man, I've been rereading this book, Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield. Probably get it for 9 or 10 bucks. And short, easy read, and it's a banger. Like, I'm rereading it again, probably reading it once a year at this point. Well worth it.
Do the work. I'm definitely gonna check that one out. Love that. If you had 10 seconds with yourself 10 years ago, what would you say?
Oh, 10 seconds. Um, just one step at a time.
I dig it. Dig it. If you woke up in the morning, there was only one business task you could do for the day, Greg, what would you do?
If I can only do one business task for the day, it would be have a call with my team.
I think delegation. I think that's the way. That's what you want to be doing. I like that. And then final question for you here: if you had a billboard message that could reach millions and millions of people, what do you put on your billboard?
So I'm stealing this answer from Jamie Foxx, who got Tim Ferriss asked him this question. If you haven't listened to that episode, by the way, you should. And he cheated and he said, I want one of those electronic ones that the message changes every time.
Ah,
Because one message is going to fatigue. So you need to be able to change your message. So he kind of rifled off a handful. So I know that that's probably not fair, but if I were to be able to do that, I probably would have something that can change with the times, one step at a time. You can do it. Hey, do the unsexy work. Multiple things that I would probably kind of run over those, but those would be the three that come out first.
I like it. I like to do the unsexy work. That is what you don't see when you see Gary Vaynerchuk on a TEDx stage in front of millions of people. That is not what you don't see that unsexy work. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's a core value of our business. Yeah, you don't see him. Well, I guess sometimes you do, but like on the planes, like red eye flights, like all that stuff, being away from his family, um,
Putting out fires. That's what
putting
agency
out
owners
fires.
do. That's what we do. Awesome. Greg, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.